Here is Madario, and you've got 5 minutes, my friend. So welcome to the Nassau Delegation. You are recognized.
Thank you, Senator Dean and Representative Adkins. Thank you for including me in the agenda.
I'm sorry, proceed.
Okay, sorry. I'm just one of perhaps thousands of community residents who are very concerned with the developments at the Port Authority, and particularly at OPA. And what I want to speak today is about the dangers of not limiting the flow of hazardous materials through the Port of Fernandina. I'm a veteran from the chemical industry, so I think I know a thing or two about that. A picture speaks 1,000 words, so I'd like to start by showing, and maybe cutting short, a very, very short video, and then make the pertinent remarks. And what I want to share with you and the audience is an incident that occurred at a similar port in China just about a few months ago. And I want to make the claim that this is likely to happen in the Port of Fernandina unless we limit the flow of hazardous chemicals. I'll let you listen. As you can see, this was not just an irrelevant incident. It started as a small fire, and it was followed by a series of very dramatic explosions on a port that is also very close to a high residential area. The blast of this incident affected 4 miles. More than 200 people were killed. More than 6,000 people were displaced, and more than 1,700 residents, businesses were closed as a result of that. Now you will find those who still deny that this can happen at the Port of Fernandina. And I would advise the legislation to simply ask a few questions to those who deny that. First of all, ask them to show you their credentials, and ask them about their knowledge and experience in handling and assessing chemical hazards. Because there's no way that anybody can sustain that this should be done and can be done at the Port of Fernandina. This accident can indeed happen. So I want to explain to you why we have almost perfect storm conditions for this to happen at the Port of Fernandina, and I'll try to accelerate as much as possible. You've heard me, I'm not sure I know how to use this equipment. These are pictures from the incident, and I'll be happy to supply this to you electronically. I want to bring your attention to the central picture, and you can see that the blast hole is relatively small, suggesting that only a limited quantity of chemicals was responsible for this devastation that occurred. All the other pictures show the damage that was caused. I ask you also to consider what would happen if something like this happened at the Port of Fernandina, and what would be the impact not only in the historic district, but also on the West Rock facility and also on the Rainier facility. They will likely go up as well. I mentioned to you before the impact of this event. It was actually worse than Paris. And what I want to highlight here is that most of the deaths were actually first responders. Essentially, as you will see later, the community was unaware of the latent dangers of the port activities, which is a condition similar to what we have here. What happened? These are just some of the few chemicals that were stored at that port, and at first glance, none of them would be responsible for an accident like this. And I would make the claim that this exactly can happen at the Port of Fernandina for the same reason. So what happened? An initial fire that you saw at the beginning of the video of unknown cause started. And as most warehouses would do, it activated the sprinkler systems. The sprinkler systems generated water, and it turns out that the calcium carbide that was stored in the facility then reacted with water to produce acetylene. Acetylene is a very highly flammable gas, and the explosions that you saw in the video are the subsequent explosions of acetylene. And that explosion then created a bigger problem, is the nitrates then heated up and exploded, and combined with the sodium cyanide created a very toxic cloud of gas. Now, I find the comments made by the Chinese officials very similar and strikingly similar to comments that we have heard here before. First of all, there was a reduction in the restriction of hazardous materials, and if you look at that quote, the Chinese officials were unable to determine what was actually stored at that site. If you compare with the statements that we have heard repeatedly and publicly by OPA officials, they're pretty much the same. They claim that we are unable, or they are unable to reject any lawful cargo. They don't get involved in Kinder Morgan operations, so all these chemicals can go through the Port of Fernandina. A little bit about the Port of Fernandina. There's little to no oversight of Kinder Morgan operations by OPA. OPA has accepted that. There's no buffer zone between the Port of Fernandina and the residential district or the historic district. City of Fernandina, in terms of chemical hazard, is considered a high consequence area. The fire department in Nassau County and the City of Fernandina is understaffed. We don't even have a hazmat team right now to be able to deal with anything even close or fractions of magnitude to what I just showed. The North Florida Emergency Operations Center doesn't have an emergency plan from OPA or Kinder Morgan. We simply don't have an emergency plan. If you combine that with the attitudes that I see in OPA, essentially denying that this can happen, combined with the very well documented poor safety record from Kinder Morgan, I submit to you that we have perfect storm conditions for this to happen. Let me just mention a few things. Again, this is all public record. These are not facts created by me. Unfortunately, the Kinder Morgan claims about their safety performance just doesn't match their historic poor performance. In fact, in the last 7 years, they have had one major, let me underline that, one major fire or explosion in the last 7 years. So the question that I ask of you is, when is our turn right here locally? If you look at performance in a longer period of time, from 2003 to 2014, that company is characterized by more than 200 spills, explosions, fires, and fatalities. And they have been fined repeatedly due to safety violations in operations of the pipeline. We have already seen a failed attempt by Kinder Morgan to put through 500,000 tons of coal through this port, and I submit to you again that this community is facing an undue risk if the legislatures do not limit the flow of hazardous chemicals through the port. It is my view that you, and only you, the Florida legislature, can change the OPA charter. And I ask you, almost begging you, when you do that, please include a provision that will limit the handling and storage of hazardous chemicals at the port. My experience and my judgment tells me we have the right conditions for a similar event to happen here in Fernandina Beach, and I'm certain that none of you want this to happen. Thank you very much. I don't know if you have any questions for me.
Mr. Monzon. Mr. Monzon, thank you very much for coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you.